The email arrived at 9:12 a.m. bright and merciless in the middle of a sun-lit office that smelled faintly of fresh coffee and printer ink. Ryan Qureshi stared at the words on the screen, his vision blurring even though the daylight pouring through the glass walls was sharp and unforgiving. After 9 years of perfect attendance, overtime weekends, and quietly fixing problems no one else noticed, he had been terminated for taking a single day off. One day, his hands trembled as the reality sank in. Not because of pride or anger, but because he knew exactly what that one lost paycheck could mean for his daughter's school fees, their rent, and the fragile stability he had spent nearly a decade building from nothing. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Soul Stories. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. The office around him buzzed with the ordinary rhythm of daytime productivity, keyboards clacking and phones ringing. But for Ryan, everything felt distant, as if he were watching his life through a pane of glass. He had not planned to take that day off. His 8-year-old daughter, Meher, had woken up with a burning fever, her small body shaking under the blanket, whispering that she felt scared. There had been no one else to call, no relative nearby, no luxury of choice. He had stayed home, pressing cool cloths against her forehead, promising her she would be okay. That promise had mattered more than any corporate policy. But policies, he now realized, did not care about promises made to children. The CEO, Serafina Hale, was known throughout the company as brilliant, efficient, and ruthlessly disciplined. She had built the firm into a rising powerhouse before the age of 40, and her reputation was carved from impossible standards. To her, attendance records were numbers, reliability was measurable data, and exceptions were dangerous cracks in a system that demanded perfection. When Ryan's absence appeared on the monthly report, it had been flagged automatically. She had approved the termination without hesitation, assuming she was reinforcing fairness. She did not know his story. She did not know him at all. Ryan packed his desk quietly under the harsh brightness of late morning sunlight. A framed photo of Meher at the seaside, her laughter frozen in time, went into his worn backpack alongside a lunch container he had not opened yet. He left the building with the slow, heavy steps of someone trying to hold himself together. Outside the city pulsed with daytime life, traffic horns, street vendors calling out, office workers rushing past, and for a moment he felt invisible among thousands of strangers who all seemed to know exactly where they were going. Hours later, as fate would twist events in a way neither of them could have imagined, Serafina sat in a high-end restaurant across town for a business lunch with her father. The place was bathed in soft afternoon light streaming through tall windows, polished cutlery reflecting golden highlights on white tablecloths. Her father, Idris Hale, was a billionaire investor with a quiet reputation for spotting potential where others saw nothing. Their relationship had always been complicated, admiration tangled with distance, but their monthly lunches were a ritual neither of them missed. Serafina noticed her father's attention shift towards someone behind her. When she turned, she saw a man seated a few tables away with a young girl sharing a simple meal. The child's face lit up with joy as the man slid a dessert toward her, pretending it was a grand surprise. The tenderness in the gesture was unmistakable, and something about the man's posture seemed familiar. Then, recognition struck her like a sudden drop in temperature. It was Ryan, the employee she had fired that morning. Confusion flickered across her face, but before she could process it, her father stood and walked toward him with unmistakable warmth. They greeted each other with the ease of old acquaintances, and moments later, Idris returned to the table with Ryan and his daughter in tow. Serafina's composure faltered for the first time in years as she realized her father knew him, not casually, but personally. The story unfolded slowly over lunch. Years ago, before Ryan had joined the company, he had helped Idris during a roadside emergency when no one else stopped. Ryan had refused any reward, simply saying that kindness was not something you charged money for. That moment had stayed with Idris. Over time, he had quietly followed Ryan's career, occasionally offering advice through mutual contacts, but never revealing the connection. Today's lunch had been planned weeks in advance as a small gesture of appreciation, something Idris called investing in character. Serafina felt a tightening in her chest as realization dawned. The man she had dismissed as a policy violation was someone her father considered extraordinary. But more than that, she noticed the way Ryan's daughter looked at him. Complete trust, admiration, and love. It was a look she had rarely given anyone in her own life. For the first time, doubt crept into her certainty. She had always believed fairness meant treating everyone identically, but she now saw the human cost of that belief. Her decision had not been malicious, yet it had been blind. Watching Ryan gently wipe a bit of sauce from his daughter's cheek, she felt something unfamiliar. Regret mixed with humility. That afternoon sunlight, warm and revealing, seemed to expose truths she had avoided for years. Success had come to her through relentless discipline. But somewhere along the way she had begun measuring people only by output, not by humanity. And here sat a man who, despite losing his job hours earlier, still chose to create a joyful moment for his child instead of drowning in bitterness. The turning point came quietly. Serafina asked questions, listened, and for the first time allowed herself to understand rather than judge. She learned about Ryan's years as a widower, the sleepless nights balancing work and parenting, the sacrifices he never spoke about at the office. She realized that reliability was not just about attendance. It was about resilience, loyalty, and heart. By the time lunch ended, something inside her had shifted permanently. Days later, under the bright clarity of another morning, Ryan received a phone call that would change everything. But more important than the offer that followed was the apology. Sincere, vulnerable, and deeply human. Serafina did not just reinstate his job. She created a new company policy supporting employees with caregiving responsibilities, ensuring no one else would face what he had faced. The company culture began to transform, one decision at a time. Productivity improved, morale soared, and Serafina discovered that compassion was not a weakness in leadership, it was strength. Most importantly, Ryan's life stabilized again, and Meher continued to grow up believing her father was her hero. In truth, he was. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and comment to help more people believe that empathy still exists in the world.